Good morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. I'm Donna Reed, and I'm here in the Cactus Lounge, aka my office. And most of you know that I traveled and up with people in 1976, did costumes for a few of you for a few years after. This morning, I am with three men who traveled together first in 1977, 78. And a year or two later, they are still making music together.
Year or two.
So a year or two, right. So I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourself, and I'm going to ask you to tell me where you live now and maybe where you first saw a show. Kevin, let's start with you.
Okay. My name is Kevin Moore. I traveled in Cast C 77, 78. And the first show I saw was in 1971 in San Francisco for a medical convention with my family.
Oh, wow. And were any of like Willie Knowles, those guys in that group, since they were a bunch
I have to be honest with you. I was in seventh grade. I didn't know what Up with People was. However, as I was telling these guys earlier this week, because they were all here in the studio,
right.
That the lights went low, the drum came in, the bass came in, and I turned to my dad and said, "That's the instrument I want to learn how to play." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I like the bass."
Oh.
And a few weeks later, he shows up with a bass and amp, says, "Figure it out." And then literally 6 years later, I'm playing bass and Up with People. So
definitely an influence. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Norm, aka Norman, aka Fuzzy, tell us who you are and the fact that you have this nickname that I didn't even know your real name.
Yeah, well, when I traveled in 77, 78, everyone knew me as Fuzzy. And Fuzzy is a nickname my mother gave me when I was a baby. Because I guess, even though I don't have any now, I used to have a little peach fuzz on the top of my head, and she called me Fuzzy. And that's how I got the nickname. And so all through elementary school, junior high school, even Up with People, I was known as Fuzzy, though my given name is Norman. But now everyone calls me Norm, except for those who know me before 1985.
Got it. Okay, and Mark, tell us about you.
Well, I grew up in housing projects in Yonkers, New York.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I know better than that.
Oh my gosh.
I love the shout out in Grossman's interview that you mentioned Kingsport, Tennessee. So I grew up in Kingsport, Tennessee, the home of Eastman, and also the home of the beloved Retta Bellamy. Yeah. I started in Sing Out Kingsport when I was in the 7th grade, which would have been 1970, and performed with them all through high school. So it was interesting. We always talked about the national cast. I had no idea really what that was. But then when Retta traveled in 76, they came to East Tennessee. And so I went to the show and auditioned. I auditioned as a singer, guitar player, or as a guitar player. So I went through the guitar player stuff, and then they wanted me to sing something. And so I sat down at the piano and played the one song I knew how to play on piano and sang it. And so when I got to Tucson, they had me down as a guitar player / piano player. So I had to fix that quickly. So yeah, I was familiar somewhat with the organization, but it was still quite the adventure.
So first of all, I didn't know that they allowed 7th graders in sing out, so that's interesting. And Retta is absolutely beloved and not beloved, depending on who she was working with at the time. And she knows I would say that to her, depending on your specific contact.
Well, I actually, I had a music teacher who was in a sing out, was in the national cast of Sing Out, and ended up becoming a teacher because he got drafted, and he either had to leave Sing Out and start doing a profession, or he was going into the Army. And so I was lucky enough to born in Yonkers, went to school in Yonkers, New York, and not Mark, me. And I he taught us. I heard Up With People songs from, I mean, from 1968. My first show was 1969, 70 with the
Wow.
Smithfields.
Oh, wow.
And I saw Chuck Wansley, and like Kevin, I want to play drums.
So you guys, it's just interesting, the connection. So Mark, then you saw the cast that I was in, because I was 76A with Retta, and Fuzzy, we ended our tour in Yonkers. That's where our tour ended. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that 19? So you were at
Spring
Yonkers?
of 77. Spring of 77. Yeah.
You were at Yonkers High School?
I was. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was in an orange dress. You might have recognized me.
Well, oh my gosh, is there a sordid tale to that?
All right, you have to tell me that later.
I never saw the show.
Funny.
I never saw the show.
Oh my. Okay, well,
I never saw the show. Later. I didn't see the assembly. I was busy doing my thing as a crazy teenager.
Oh my. Okay, well, that's the Paul Harvey rest of the story, which anybody 30 won't know what I just said.
Exactly.
So.
I'm sorry, the same thing with me. I just interrupted a little bit. Up With People is not on my radar at all. Zero. And the reality is I got a call out of the blue. It's amazing what 2 minutes can do to change your life. I got a call from a guy named Steve Caldwell.
Oh, imagine.
And he said, I talked to your music director from your high school. And I asked him if I knew anybody who could sing, play an instrument, and dance. And he gave me your name. Are you interested in Up With People?
Wow.
And I said, okay, kind of a deal. And then that's when I ran into Pat Berry for the first time, because I went to Perry, Iowa and saw a show. So I love
wow,
the
you
story.
musicians were searched out, unlike some of us who were just, a BCM that, although one of the interviews that I did here, I interviewed my son who traveled in 2013. And then for the 50th episode, I had him interview me. He didn't know that I was a Navy ROTC scholarship until I saw Up With People. And then literally, you guys, not one more comment about the Navy in my diary. It just went.
Wow.
He goes, you would have been awful in the Navy. You're awful following rules. I'm like, I know. So Kevin too, he's pointing to himself. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So you guys, you then you're obviously in the same cast. You play together. Years go by, and in the 70s, it's not like now where you could just jump on and call somebody and have a video chat and stuff like that. Kevin, tell me if you guys stayed together and continued to talk together, or did any of you come back as staff in different casts? What was that like 78, 79? I'm
going to allow them to speak because I did not come back. However, the two guys did.
Okay. So Fuzzy, why don't you tell me what your memory of that is?
Well, I came back and I was in 78, 79 C. And I was there for just one half a semester.
Okay. As a musician?
No, as a recruiting person.
Okay.
Doing recruiting.
Okay. And Mark, what about you?
I did the GE tour.
Which was 100 years of progress for people.
And it's cool because it was very high tech for the time. It was a small cast, like 30 people. I think they had 3 of them. The beauty for me was I got to travel and get to know Mike Knowles. But it was pretty high tech. They had rear screen projectors and curtains and glitter, and we got to switch out of those ugly brown and gold costumes to blue and white.
Blue and white, but you still had a bodysuit, right? The boys still
with the famous crotch. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, AJ Wright, for getting us the fat crotch, because as a guitar player, I really needed that. So I did a tour that took me up through like October of 78. And that's when Kevin called me. And within a week, I was in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we were putting a band together.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Okay. So you were in Tennessee. Kevin, you were back at home in Nebraska, right? Because that's where you were from originally. You're okay. And then Fuzzy, were you back in New York at that point? I'm pointing to the States. Can you tell I'm doing that?
Yeah.
Yes. I was back in New York. Yes. And got a phone from Kevin saying, we're starting a band. We want you out here.
Okay. So you go to Nebraska. And who wants to tell me what happens then? Kevin, since it's your home, you want to tell me what happens then?
Well, essentially, the day I got home from Europe after traveling, we did some more traveling, and I got home and I'm jet lagged. And my mom surprised me with a big party with all my friends to show up, and I was exhausted. And then the local guys who I'd been playing with before, who were also part of the band, they showed up my doorstep and said, "We need to go on the road." And that's when I said, "Well, I just got off the road, so maybe we can calm down a little bit." And then they said, "But we're looking for a singer, and we need this and we need this." And I go, "I got them, so I'll take care of that." And they said, "Great," because they were assuming that I had met somebody while I was there, and they were right. So the first call went to Mark. We needed a lead singer, but Fuzz, he came up in the conversation because the drummer we were playing with at the time came and saw us play in Holdridge, Nebraska, which is not near Lincoln. And I admired Fuzzy a lot. And actually, I think talked to him after the show. And so when I said, "Well, I wanted Mark," and he said, "Well, we need Fuzzy too. We definitely need Fuzzy too." And I said, "Well, that was my plan all along. I just hadn't got to it yet." So I made the call. They came at separate times, and then all of a sudden we were all in the same house called the Worthington Palace. It was not a palace.
It was not a palace.
But we were there and rehearsed and had side jobs. And I mean, I was a waiter, and Fuzz was a cook, and Mark he worked for a department store, and we just put everything together until we finally had the show together and got a agency out of Minneapolis and hit the road.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So I was going to ask if this was vocation, avocation, through the years. I'm just going to say you probably had to do something else to make money. Have you made a living off of music through the years? Is that like your full-time thing? Any of you guys?
Well, I did 30 years of music ministry.
Okay.
In the Twin Cities. And so I'm in Minneapolis right now. And I was at a big mega church for 18 years. And then another 10 years at a smaller church developing a contemporary service for them.
Okay. Okay. And Kevin, do you do other outside of music?
I do. When we were on the road, I'd come home and get my haircut from a buddy of mine. And every time I talked to him, I said, "What's new?" "Oh, I bought a car." "Oh, and oh, I bought a house." "Oh, I'm getting married." He sounded relatively normal because we were not living a normal life.
That's right.
And I thought, how long is the school? It's about a year and a half. Well, I could do that until I wanted to figure out something else. But I did. I owned a salon. I owned a day spa. I had 30 employees. I had kind of a conglomerate thing for a while. And then I got burned out. And so I retired at 60. I sold everything. I whittle hair one day a week. And the rest of the time I'm music oriented because I was always music. While I was doing that, I was still playing in bands every weekend. So nice. I was more of a musician than a hairstylist. That's absolutely true. But that was that's what I did to live. But what I lived for was to play music.
I remember, and when I look back at pictures of the Caldwells, and you guys mentioned Steve, and I've interviewed Paul, been on a committee with Steve, and going through the years, I remember thinking as a young person that people would give it up. But if music is in your soul, it never leaves.
It never leaves.
Yeah. It's just who you are. Yeah. Yeah. Mark, what about you? Did you continue to do music when you?
Not right away. When the band that we were playing in, these two left the original band, and I stayed on for a couple more years till I was completely burned out. And then when I left the band, music wasn't top of my list. I needed a break. Luckily, I had met my wife to be. She was a nurse, and she was able to just kind of give me some time. And we met in Rochester, lived there, then moved to Minneapolis, and I sold real estate for a few years back when interest rates were 17%. Yeah, I remember we had a party when it went down to 14%. I said, "Oh, think how many people can afford houses now." And but anyway, the ups and downs of getting started in real estate was frustrating for both Carrie and I. So we sat down and said, "Okay, what? I'm a nurse. I can work anywhere. What's something that you could go into, like Kevin was, what's a career that wouldn't take forever to train for that you could do that we could be more mobile?" And so we decided the travel industry. So this was just when computers were coming into the industry. So I went to school and became a travel agent. And then 6 months later, we had the opportunity, very intelligent marketing. Queens Medical Center in Honolulu came to Minnesota in January recruiting nurses. And so we signed up and we moved to Hawaii for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed in the travel business up until when 9/11 happened. By the end of that year, travel business was dead. So I was out of business. And that's when I followed Fuzzy's footsteps and picked up my guitar and went and worked for a church as a contemporary worship leader for the next 16 years. Also playing out as a solo. There again, it's been interesting how technology has been a big factor. Our cast, I think the main reason we're still in such good contact is that early on in the 80s or early 90s, whenever it happened, when Yahoo groups was a thing, because we had a couple of cast members that did newsletters and we'd hear like quarterly. But how many guys we had 106 in our original cast. How many folks would you say that we're still close contact with? 30?
I think more than that.
40, yeah.
You guys have a reasonable turnout at reunions. I've done enough reunions that I know who comes and who doesn't. Was your cast, was that Brenda Moran? Was she in your cast? Yeah. Okay, yeah, you guys are, I know that group. Yeah.
Tim Lane was our cast director. Pat Berry was our show manager. AJ Wright and Eileen Senna were our dance captains. So we had real good people leading us, and then we just had a very good luck of the draw. I mean, you talk about we had a bunch of foreign out of US. I mean, like 18 or something, 11 different countries. We had a large representation, and for some reason we got lucky. We didn't click out, but we had a lot of folks. I think the only real click was the band. We were always treated very well. We got to do all the special shows and stuff, and so it was nice. And for me, the show was the reason I was there. I to perform the show. That changed.
I'm going to interrupt for a minute. I was just in I was just in Denver because my son Caleb was performing in what's he performing in? Rock of Ages.
School of Rock.
School of Rock. Thank you. You knew what show he was in, and I couldn't think of it.
I saw the.
Yeah. Anyway, Tim Lane came with me to the show. He almost always, if he can, comes to a show with me. And he said that since Brenda and Pat are in charge of the silent auction in Ireland this summer, that there's a reasonable number of 77 group going. Are any of you guys headed to Ireland for the reunion? Kevin, you're going? Good. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, I'm going to Europe in the spring, and I don't think I can squeeze out 2 trips to Europe in the year. So.
And I have helped with almost all of the reunions, but my knee replacement is only 3 months old, and I'm not making commitments to do anything that requires me to walk, run, or stand a lot right now. I'm waiting to see. So anyway, all right. Okay. So the years go by. Tell me, so you just got together again, and you're recording a new song, a new album, and do you guys write your own stuff, or what's that piece of life like? Kevin, I know that's a big question. I can see you like going, "Hoof."
Well, first of all, getting back together again is not the term. We never left.
Okay.
We have been in some form or another, somewhere along the line, even though we were separated by states and miles, we've always had a pretty strong connection, the three of us.
Okay.
So the idea of getting back together. However, when, as you can see behind me, I'm sitting in my studio,
Yeah.
and what happened was COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and we lost friends.
Oh, yeah.
I lost family members, and I turned to my wife and said, I want to create something that will be around after we're gone, just in case, because now all of a sudden, you know, we're getting older. I want to record some of my music, songs that I've written, and I want to learn this. And she said, go for it. So she's upstairs, wonderful, knitting and enjoying her life. And I'm generally down here in the studio trying to do stuff. So I've been honing and trying to understand whatever this is
The system.
for about since 2019. So what happened was, back when we were on the road, we were writing songs. We just were. I mean, Mark wrote and I wrote, and I would hear things in my head, and I'd grab those guys and say, you sing this, you sing this, you sing this. We were always collaborating. So now I had the tools to go back and visit some of those songs that we wrote.
Oh, nice. 40
odd years ago, right? And one of them was a song that I wrote in first semester that we, you know, we're such nerds.
First semester?
First semester of our year in 77. Yeah. So we all went home for Christmas for 1 week, and then we went to Kingsport for the second week, because his buddy, who is now a buddy of ours, had a little impromptu recording studio in his basement, and we laid stuff down. So I had the old reel to reel, and I have all this stuff. And so I revisited that music, and I thought, this is worth redoing. But if I'm going to redo this song, I can't do it alone. I got to have these guys sing their parts again and put it all together. And then along the way, when they said yes, and they were flying in to actually put down their vocals and do some stuff that I've already laid down, I said, well, if they're coming, I'm going to ask the existing members that are still alive of Keystone, can you come and play?
Oh, that's who the others were. Okay.
Yeah, and they said yes. So it is, in my opinion, even though it was the song that I came up with 40 odd years ago, it is now, because of the contributions, it is now a new Keystone song.
Oh, that's
so
sweet.
Because of that, it's fun. And Mark has the same stuff in his basement, and so we collaborate, and while he was here, we started working on another song just for fun. And so I sent him the stuff, and he's going to work on it, and he'll send stuff back to me, and I can work on it. And
that's cool.
And unfortunately, Fuzz has got to get in the car and come back, because I got a few things I want him to do still.
Wait till the snow melts, you know.
Yeah. So that's how this all came about, that musically, we're always going to be tied. There's another side to this scenario, as an unfortunate side, and I'm going to talk about it, so I don't.
Okay.
I don't want Mark to have to go through it, but actually, go ahead.
Okay. Well, we have continued to be best friends. I mean, forever. Even when they left the original version of Keystone, it was no animosity. It was like, oh, I hate them now. It was like, okay, their dream has changed, but mine is to continue on. So we didn't stay in as close a touch there for a few years. Fuzzy was playing in other bands. Kevin had gone home to Lincoln and was figuring out how he's going to pay his bills, and had started a hair school. So there for maybe 5 years, it was limited communication. But then we started getting back. I think it's called maturity. We started communicating more. The cast started communicating more, and so the bond that was there grew. And these two guys are my best friends for life. And that was totally proven in that 3 years ago, in January 2021, my son, who was 28 years old, had just gotten married, bought his first house, and had his first baby. She was 2 months old, and he got sick. It started with a swollen eye, and we thought he just picked up something. He'd been excruciatingly careful through all the COVID protocols. I don't think he let his pregnant wife out of the house for 9 months so she wouldn't get sick. And anyway, he got sick, and we couldn't figure out what it was. We got him in the hospital. His kidneys were shutting down, so we thought it was kidney related. We were trying to get him. He wanted out of the hospital desperately because he saw the black bags going by his door of people that had died from COVID. And his mom, being a nurse, allowed us to get him out of the hospital a little early. But he didn't get better, and he got sick on a Thursday, and the following Saturday, he died in my wife's arms. The first call I made was to Kevin, and he was as devastated as I was. So the next big interest they got is about 6 months after that. They met with my wife via phone or whatever, and they had a meeting, and they decided that Mark was doing well, not doing as well as I thought I was doing. So the suggestion was that I needed some intensive therapy. So I went in, I checked into a residential program for 3 weeks where I could just worry about me. I didn't have to worry about they fed me. I had a room. I took my guitar with me. So I had that time. But these two were always there. They checked in on me. And through that, the bond only grew stronger. We decided as a family that we wanted, and I know you having sons, when you have sons or daughters, they are your legacy.
Mm-hmm.
When you lose a son or daughter, you become their legacy. How do we remember them? What life work did they not get to complete? So that's what we're trying to do. We've started an organization called Christopher's Hands, which is a nonprofit. And this year will be our third gala fundraiser. And these two guys have been there for both of the previous two to help me with music. But it's a big gala. We call it a gala because this is sort of a summertime flip-flop type community. So my wife and daughter-in-law wanted to call it a gala so people wouldn't show up in shorts and t-shirts. But these guys have helped me with the music each time. We do food. We have a silent auction, whole 9 yards. In the last 2 years, we've raised almost $100,000 for charities that Christopher felt strongly about. And this year, we've teamed up with another group. We have found a larger location because last year we were bursting at the seams. We didn't have enough room. So we're trying to turn that, into a positive. My granddaughter is my favorite person in the world, closely followed by these two guys. And in fact, I'm wearing pink today because that's her favorite color. Yeah, it's gone way beyond just being friends and just being musicians. These guys are family. And they've been a big part of my family. And if there's anything I need, all I have to do is call. And this last weekend with the three of us in Lincoln, it was familiar territory from, a time past. We were visiting with friends. It was kind of like an Up With People reunion. You're telling the same stories, but they're still funny. And it was great. It was the best weekend I've had since losing my son. And so that's a big part of who I am now. When you carry grief like I have, it's like getting a new knee. That knee is part of you forever. If you lose a leg to an amputation, that's the way you are from that point
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
Losing my son, that's the way I am from now on. It's not something you get over. It's something you hopefully learn to deal with a little bit better and move forward and try to find some positives. Talk to them. I have found a few positives in that when devastating things happen to other people, I truly understand that more than I did before.
The other thing is, so the music is a part of the relationship. It isn't the whole relationship. So I wanted him to share it because of that, the music in our little trio here has become a little bit more important. So time is fleeting. So let's enjoy ourselves while we're here. And to have those guys here in the same room, and we're working on stuff and we're learning. It's very interesting. Not only were we creating music, but we're learning even more about each other as it was going along. It was a great experience, and I'm still working on it as we speak.
So you guys, this in the last couple of days, one of my cast members was here with her sister, and just like you, I can get weepy. It seems like when we get together, we talk about who's not around anymore. And that's so different than the 18 and the 19-year-old conversations, right? I'm like, remember when we talked about dating or sneaking kisses or sex, and then our kids, and now it's like the other side of things, right?
Yeah.
And to have journeyed through that for 45 or 50 years is something. There's very few relationships in other places in the world where you walk in and you pick those back up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, we say it every single time. We are so lucky.
Yeah. People are always so amazed.
Yeah.
People are so amazed that the three of us have stayed as tight as we are, because it's more unusual for men, I think, to have this kind of bond and relationship, whereas it's not as unusual with women. But yeah, we just feel like that, you know, whoever was writing down names for the cast back in '77.
Thank you.
Yeah. and you guys, you know, Kevin, when you got a little choked up, I think that at some point, and this is me with 3 brothers and 3 sons. Sons and men are supposed to be a specific way, right?
I'm a wimp.
Well, no. And I think that there's this emotion at a deep level with many that were up with people. And one of my best friends, he knows I've been single for 12 years. He calls me every Valentine's Day, you guys, every Valentine's Day. He's married. I know his wife. I know his kids. And he's like, I love you. Happy Valentine's Day. We talk, we laugh, we cry like every freaking time, you know, because those relationships are so special. So I totally understand that. Okay. So quickly, Kevin, are you guys going to release this? Are you going to like Spotify it? What are you going to do with this song that you've just done?
Right. So when it's all done, go ahead, Mark.
I said nobody can hear it. We're just keeping it first.
Okay.
Exactly right. It will be released. What I will end up doing is, with some help, once it's all completed, I will probably look at maybe releasing it more as a single scenario.
Okay.
I would like to then start collaborating with these guys with pictures. Maybe have Mark do an iMovie. We can maybe go through some old shots and get some of the pictures. Like on my wall here is a dozen pictures of us back in the day.
That's awesome.
That we could maybe use as a little get-together scenario of the golden days, if you want to call those golden.
These might be your golden days.
Yeah, and then we'll put it out. I'll put it out on the music on Spotify. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be on Facebook. Probably any other little streaming service that we can put it out for people to see it. Because ironically enough, there are people that still are friends with us because of Keystone. So I think they'd be excited to see it.
All right. So you guys, because we've got 4 minutes, I'm going to wrap it up. And then what I'm going to suggest is in the past, I had so many of these pre-recorded that I wouldn't release them. But after my knee surgery and Christmas and everything, I haven't done many. So I probably will make this live pretty quickly in the Cactus Lounge. Okay. And what I'm going to suggest is if you don't follow it, but you go there or whatever, that maybe when this song is ready to go, you come back and you comment on it and you put where people can get to it, you know, underneath this video. Why not, you know, promote yourselves and advertise.
Once we get Kev, because Kev has become the most prolific person I've met since Kirby. He always, I mean, he has musical ideas in his head constantly.
Awesome.
And And it's amazing. I mean, I will never be that prolific. If I have a decent thought once a year that I can turn into something, I'm happy. I have to wait for I have to wait for the muse and the timing and the whole thing. And Kevin goes, "Oh, I wrote this today in the shower."
That's awesome. All right.
But I'm figuring the day D will probably be on our Cast C What's Up page, and we'll send it out to the group first.
Okay,
And then
that's fine. Yeah.
Great fun.
All right, I gotta get going and wrap it up. Fuzzy, I'm gonna ask you just real quickly, is there one thing that you can say in 1 minute that you would encourage young people about, whether you understand the new program or not, what Up With People did and why they should do it?
Wow. Well, I think the prime example of it is what the four of us are doing right now. It'll change your life and create lifelong friends that will change your life. These two guys have changed my life. My experience in Up With People has changed my life from being an inner city kid with really a questionable future. And then I look
on the fact that you didn't see my show, I'm going to go with that.
Okay. But that would be my strong suggestion.
Awesome.
Life is an open book, and what a great way to begin to write it is in an organization that can open doors to you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stop the recording and get this uploaded. Stay for just one more second. Okay.
Okay.